a podcast that looks at both the financial and operational sides of success. Please welcome our hosts, Dan Paulson and Richard Veltre. Dan is the CEO of Envision Development International, and he works with leaders to increase sales and profits through great cultures with solid operations. Rich is CEO of the Veltre Group and a financial strategist working with companies to manage their money more effectively. Now on to the podcast.
Thank you for that wonderful introduction, Alice. Welcome back to Books the Biz. Rich, how are you doing today?
I'm fabulous.
You're fabulous. Weather out in New York City treating you well?
No, we went from a million degrees to high, wind speeds. So I'm a little nervous right now.
Built-in fans, we call it. Built-in fans.
That's it.
All
Built-in
right.
fans.
And we have a guest with us today. So Steve Staples, how are you doing?
I'm doing pretty well. How are you guys?
We are excellent. So it's nice to have you on because as we were kind of talking before we started the show, you are an entrepreneur and you might be able to give us a little bit more background into what's it like to be an entrepreneur in the year 2024 and what challenges are you trying to overcome. So why don't you start by telling us a little bit about your business, what you do?
Okay. My name is Steve Staples, own Accurate Electrical Solutions in the greater Madison area. Doing commercial, residential, electrical build installs, design builds, pretty much a full service electrical contractor. So yeah, it's what I do. It's what my company does. And I've got many years in the industry. Started back in 2019. My wife, then girlfriend at the time, told me that, hey, you're pretty smart. You're a hardworking guy. Why don't you start your own business? And I was like, I don't know. It just seems too much going to the deep end. It seems like a lot of risk. And she says, well, no risk, no reward. And she's been an entrepreneur for 14 years. She's owned her own staffing agency and consulting agency. So it was nice having the support there, which is probably one of the hardest things to get. I think next to having capital to use in starting a business. So yeah, started 2019. I worked full time up until about 2 years ago. So I did that on the side. Weren't operating a business yet, gaining clientele, things like that. So
what got you into electrical work? Why did you pick this of all things?
Growing up, I got into electronics, and kid from Chicago that was stereos and TVs in the cars, and I was always in the cars. I'm still a car guy, but I'm on a little different scale now with cars. And then I went into working with cars and realized that's not what I wanted to do. I'm an enthusiast for automobiles, but I don't want to work on them for a living. I do it for fun. And I said, why don't I take my love for both electronics, cars, and not to mention my background in the trades. My father's a tradesman, been his whole life. I got plenty of tradesmen friends and family. I said, I'm going to put this all together, and said, I'm going to go into electrical. So went through a 5-year apprenticeship in Madison here through the union. And then I spent 5 years afterwards working for 2 of the larger contractors in Madison. And from there, went to the city of Madison, doing, pretty much same electrical, same thing, except I got into something more sustainable and renewable as far as updating lighting, doing solar projects, EV chargers, things that are, the wave of the future, and training a new group of kids, come up and comers, and trying to get the demo, like all the multiple mixes of walks of life, get the young kids that don't have the opportunities into it. So I did that for about 2.5 years. And that's when like I said, 2019, I got hired with the city in 2020, in February of 2020. And my hiatus between my contracting job with one of the larger contractors and February, there was a gap there. When you're in the union, there's a big body of work there that at the end of every year, companies do their bottom line cost savings for the end of the year for their next year, budgets. And so none of us all get to stay working through the holidays. So I was just one of those opportunities that I got to do some side work, start my business, do some side work, and then get with the city, build some clientele over time. And then 20 June of was it June? It was May. I'm sorry, May. I had my son, May of 2022, May 4th. So at that point, I had a 6 week paternal leave, which was fantastic. I kept working through the business, and my wife was like, you know, you spend so much time and so much thought, so much anxiety, I guess, in a way, because you're trying to teach a younger generation electrical, be safe, do this, do that, and make sure you're doing it right and you're not leading down the wrong path, or I wouldn't even say it that, but just making sure that they're absorbing the information and you're delivering it to them in a way that they understand. So she saw like some of the headaches I'd come home with, not to mention big projects, small timelines. And she says, if you're going to go through all that stress, benefit yourself. And right there, I was like, I got back to work. And as much as I didn't want to be that person and be like, hey, I had 6 weeks off. Here's 2 more weeks that you got me for, and I'm out of here. But for the betterment of my future, my family's future, and my sons, I said, here, I'm gonna jump in the deep end. Here we go, and that it's been great. It's been fun. It's a learning experience, and I love to learn everything about the aspect of the culture of business ownership, from business relations, get to the relationships, get to know people, doing the work, designing the projects. Because before I was just an installer, I was working under somebody else. Now I get to do it all and learn it at the same time. And it's got its challenges, but for me, the rewards outweigh the challenges of business.
So how have things changed from being the one to just doing the work? So you just punch the clock and do what you're doing, to now where you got to worry about everything else?
Boy, yeah, the challenges of that, which changes, is like finding the work, finding the people that need the jobs done, finding the clientele, but more importantly though, having the like I said, the capital to start a business. I didn't have much. I had a few $1,000s in the bank, and from there you gotta make do with that, and try to find the work, go get the work, and set yourself up in a way, because there's a lot of businesses right now that can bankroll the startup of most jobs. When you're you're a small shop, a self shop like myself, you got to get the money like up front, and trying to get people to spend the money and things like that is a challenge, especially up front, because they want to see the work first. So, but I think that and building the business relationships with more than just your customers, people in the banking world, get time, you build your business up to a certain value, then you can start, doing loans, so you can start going to get more equipment. Next thing is, vans, and then employees. And how do you traverse the kind of that atmosphere of ups and downs, highs and lows, of you're going to be busy and then you're going to be slow, then you're going to be busy, and then making sure you have the backing to keep it going when you have those low times. And that's where I get, a little nervous at times, but every time I seem to find myself that I get calls and it picks right back up. So it's been kind of nice having getting my name out there a little more these days. It's been a little more consistent. So it's I think the nights I lay awake thinking about, well, how am I going to get this done? How am I going to get more business? Well, there's that. So I think being the personality that I am has really helped with that. It's when you're driven, you're dedicated, motivated to go after what you want and what you need, and you have a positive attitude with it, generally things tend to fall kind of in your lap in a way. But it's not luck. You put yourself in a position. Success is no accident, is something my wife and I like to say. Success is not. It's not like I was given success. You have to earn it, and it's a long, arduous process to get there. Especially especially financially. 'Cause like I said, you're starting with nothing. You pretty much have, a 0-0 score, and you're going against everybody else to get the work. So
Yeah.
I think that's one of the biggest challenges that I faced. And I was lucky enough to have my wife's got many contacts in the Madison area. Her family grew up here. She has many business connections, and one of them I was very thankful for to really get me going was a job doing a large $3.5 million printer, doing the infrastructure for that. Designing it, laying it out, getting the conductor sizes, conduit sizes, getting that all in, getting the requirements for the machine. And the gentleman at this establishment, AM Solutions in Edgerton, he was generous enough to give me that break to do a large project by myself that took me about a week and a half, 2 weeks to do, because it wasn't just installing that machine, it was moving all of his other machines in their factory to make room for this one machine. So it was the one that's kind of kept me going even a year and a half later. I don't spend money that the business doesn't have. I have very little to no business debt. So it's been nice, and like I said, managing the money is always the hard part, I think, and I think most people would agree, when you're fresh out, starting new, the money is the hard part. So it's been nice having that to keep me bankrolled this whole time. Obviously the other jobs coming in add to that. But it's got me a lot of the equipment that I've needed to get a lot of these jobs done these days.
Nice.
Yeah. So
Rich, maybe you've got some ideas since you're my financial guru here, and you can ask some questions to see how you might be able to help Steve
I
out.
love the fact that he said exactly what I was thinking. You're in a service business, right? So having no
correct.
debt is an enormous. It's not just an advantage, right? It's a mantra. You have to do as much of it as possible with as little debt as possible, because yes, you're going to need a truck, or you're going to need a piece of equipment or whatever, but the more you can do that off of the cash flow of the business, it's the debt will just come back to you. It always comes back to you when you hit a lull in the business. It's like an absolute, it has to happen. It's like the only time it can happen, right?
Right.
So you definitely, you hit a big piece there. How is it, I'd be very interested, because I started my business and luckily my kids were a little older.
Sure.
So, and I started my business because I got a fax that I wasn't supposed to get, and somebody else saw it. So
Oops.
that's why, yeah. So, how is it, I think it's great that you started the business, but you've got a 2-year-old, right? I mean,
Yep.
how does that impact, you? I mean, because that's one of the influencers on, a lot of people really think about, starting a business, but you want to start it when the kids are young or not born yet, and then there's also hey, you could even start it later. You're starting it right smack in the middle. So I'm just
Yeah.
really curious how that impacts what you do.
It is challenging. It is very challenging. And man, it challenges me because at night, like I listen to a lot of podcasts. I listen to a lot of entrepreneurial podcasts, books, listen to a lot of audio on how people have done it, not only in my industry, but many other industries around the world, a lot of them with kids, and a lot of these people that have done it, it comes at a cost. And the cost is time away. So there are some nights that I will have to work a little later, because I have my wife and I also have this work-life balance that we like to maintain. 5 p.m. I shut my laptop, I shut my phone, unless I'm on a job that I absolutely have to get done. I try to keep that home life balance at 5. And what happens then is emails that come in for projects, like I'm like, look at my doors are closed, but that's the downside to that is I'm not progressing that project that day. It'll have to wait till the following day, where people are looking for right away answers. And the good thing about being my own business owner is I can decide to do that and be like, look, I'm spending time with my family, my son who's developing. I go home, mow the lawn, or I work on the car, or I, go through material and stuff like that. He just helps me. I clean the trailer. I spend the time with him doing that. So I think the challenge there is some of my projects get delayed a little bit, where customers are always, let's go, let's go, let's go. And I was like, I'm not gonna subject my time with my kid for another hour of the night, which I can deal with in the morning. And when I get up at 5, I'll just do it in the morning. So the time spent, as well as the management of the time with my family, I think is where the big setback would come in, because it does happen. I think besides that, the freedom that I get is the super upside, because I get the freedom to make those choices. I get the freedom to decide jobs I will and won't take. Go on vacation. This, like, next weekend we're leaving for. We're going to go up, get a permanent site up northern Wisconsin for a month. I mean, I'm going to commute a few times to do a few things down here, but the first week I'm going to almost be radio silent because I need the break. And when you're working for somebody else, especially in the union, when I did, was, well, you're leaving for a week. Well, your job may not be here when you get back. There's other people that are out there trying to work, and we need bodies here to get these jobs done. So I think that the downside to the entrepreneurial thing is the time that you have to invest, which I have not gone full speed ahead, because I don't want to lose that time with my son in his early years. As he gets older, and he starts getting friends, things like that, he starts going away places with friends or whatnot, then, sure, I'll put a little more time in. But I think right now it's not something I'm willing to give up. And the upside is the freedom, the freedom I get with it. So no, I honestly have to say, I don't think no matter when you start, rather you don't have kids at all, right when they're born or even later in life, I think all of us, can attest to that it's hard, no matter when you start it. It takes your time. You're pretty much raising another, something with a heartbeat almost. How do you say, analogy, analytically, or not analytically, but you get what I'm saying.
Yeah.
You're raising something new, as well as an actual living life form. So it's tough to transcend some days, but I think we do a pretty good job with my wife and I with that.
Well, that is impressive that you've been able to balance that out. Rich, you were going to say something?
No, that's what I was going to say. It's you seem like you have it thought out. Most of us didn't. So no, I didn't.
So they're still working on that, but hey.
Yeah, I wouldn't say I have it thought out, but I know what I'm willing to give, and I know what I'm willing to take. And I think that's what it comes down to, is whenever I first started this, I was sat down with my wife, like, well, where am I drawing the line? Because it's not a line it is a line in the sand at first, but as they get older and as things progress, you can move that line. But for right now, it's a line in concrete that I'm not willing to shake just yet. I need my time with my kid. I need my downtime away from the chaos of a business most days. And I think we all do. We like shutting things down, and hey, I'm gonna go play some volleyball or basketball, or go spend time. My wife and I are gonna go out to dinner, kid, and we're all gonna go do something down at the lake. Or you gotta keep that going, because if you lose that, you lose your support. And I don't want to give that up. So yeah. I'll let some things take a hit, as far as the amount of jobs I'm taking and the amount of capital I gain early on, just to have that time with family.
So what do your clients say about all that? Because as you point out, we live in a world where instant gratification is key.
Yeah.
And I think if you look at the construction industry, that is especially true, that they want it when they want it, which is usually right now, or, at the most inconvenient time anyway. How have you been able to manage that with clients?
Transparency, just being wide open with them, and going through the whole process from start to finish of what's running through my head and what's going through, what's going on through their day-to-day operations and things like that. And how do we manage it? But for me, the biggest thing I am with my customers is transparent. I'm upfront. I tell them what I've got going, but what I can do, what my schedule is, things like that. And most of my clients and customers have been very receptive of just complete transparency and honesty and not leaving them hanging. I communicate a lot through email, through anything. If I'm taking too long doing something, I reach out and give them and let them know where I'm at and that I am still working on getting their project on task and whatnot. But it's just transparency, being open with your customer and like making them feel part of like the whole family friend dynamic. Granted, we're just contractors, but we are people. Like for a lot of contractors, and I'd say a lot of laborers, that regardless of your industry, we frequent these places. We do business with a lot of these people. This is how business gets built. It's relationships. And when you're visiting them, they're calling you, you're giving them business, they give you business, you get a nice back and forth. So honesty, because if you're not honest with them and you go see them and they're going to look at you like that, you weren't very upfront with me. So I'm a very talk through, transparent, honest, upfront person when it comes to jobs and customers.
Mm-hmm.
So, and so far it's worked. I'm trying to get a Google review page going. But my IT guy's a little busy too. so things are out there, but yeah, I would say that was that's how I keep people happy, is just complete transparency.
Well, there's never shortage of stuff to do, that's for sure. So
Correct.
what's kind of the next step for Accurate? Where are you planning on taking the business?
Upwards and forwards, upwards and onwards, really. As far as, I'd like to get it to a point where it's just self-sustaining. I want it to be able to gain, it can market itself. It can gain clients on its own. It just becomes its own entity. Is my ultimate goal, where when I retire, my wife and I take our retirement, take our IRAs, we take, capital from the business, we just go live. We go do what everybody would love to do. As they get older, is just travel, go live and enjoy life. So that's my ultimate goal. I mean, I know I'm quite a ways away from that, but my long-term goal is self-sustaining and something that I can, pass on to my son if he chooses to have that interest. And be a pillar of the community, like where the people knows that Accurate Electrical is your go-to shop for honest, clean work and upfront, like I said, transparency. So that's my ultimate goal, is self-sustainability and something that I can pass on to my son and be a pillar of the community and surrounding communities.
What do you see that's going to change from where the business is at now to when you have employees? Are you going to do things differently than you do now?
Well, if the if it ain't broke, don't fix it, right? So if it's working that way, and I can pass on my work ethic and my how do I say it, like my drive, my personality, and make the culture that, to pass that and and instill that into the next person, and then we can start snowballing from there, the next person. So if there's something that needs to be adjusted, I guess I won't know it until I see it. Right now, just me being me, all I know is what I know, and I interact how I interact with people. But I'd like to build a culture fit around, obviously me. It's a business that I started. It's something I cultivated from the beginning, and it's something so far that's been good for me. It's worked for me, and it's gained me some good clientele. So ultimately just create that as a culture. And we all, as time goes on, we all make adjustments. I don't think I hit the Shark Tank idea right on the head the first time. It's going to take time. It's going to take adjustments, but I think I have the wherewithal to make that happen.
I'll give you one quick piece of advice. I used to own 50% of an electric alarm company, a digital alarm company, and a lot about it was very similar to having an electrical business, except we didn't have your license. Okay, everything
Sure.
we were entirely low voltage, while you guys could handle the higher voltage, right? So
Sure.
the only thing I would tell you is, from day one, since you're relatively new, keep track of whether you're making more money from residential versus commercial. Okay. Watch the split, because that's going to tell you what your people or what your customers are most interested in you.
Mm-hmm.
And then you can also figure out, what should I grow? Right. So I would just, almost treat it a little bit like you've got two businesses, even though you're one guy. Treat it like you got two businesses, and that way you can see which one's more carrying the weight, and then you can make financial decisions. Purely not an operational task, purely financial, right?
Yeah.
It's basically telling you, the business will tell you things, and if you're looking for them, you can read them. So follow the numbers, and that's the only piece of unsolicited advice I'll throw on the podcast here.
Sure. And that's the hard thing to learn too, is somebody who doesn't have that background where people get, masters and associates and PhDs in finance and business operations and things like that. I don't have any of that. It's learning, the fundamentals that I think have been my biggest challenges, is understanding the fundamentals, because I'm a hands-on person. So learning to be hands-on and then turn that side of your brain off and go to the other side of the brain has been the challenge, because there's days I should be in the computer and I'm in the laptop, going through certain things, and I'm just like, I got to do something. I got to get my hands dirty doing something. So it's been a hard transition to make that happen, but I'm getting there. I'm getting the right people in place, CPAs, legal advice for certain things. I've got a lot of people in my network that own their own businesses that are very good at what they do, that have helped me out. So it's been good that way, but there's still so much that requires, my hands-on approach to understanding what I'm doing, because I don't think there's really any of the podcasts I've listened to, any of the books I've read or listened to, anything that any of those successful entrepreneurial, folks and businesses, none of them have said, hey, I just handed this off to somebody and they just did it for me, without understanding what is actually going on with the finances, with the percentages, with the margins, with any of that, marketing, CPAs, legalities. If you don't have your heads in all of it, at least a little bit, to understand what those people are doing, it's going to be a tough road. And that's where I'm learning the hardships of that, as I'm getting ready to start year 3, full time, but technically I'm year 5 in the books.
Yeah.
So, that's I appreciate that advice, because that is something I didn't think about. I didn't, to me, it's like, it's income. Okay. What's my margins? What's my, percentages? I've got my markup, I got my my labor, and what are my expenses? I see that stuff, and I can see that through my spreadsheets. But the one thing I don't see is the difference between residential and commercial. So maybe that's something I should do in my ledgers, is have a residential account and a business account in my accounting software. I appreciate that. That's something I will definitely look into.
Okay.
Well, that kind of leads into, be careful not to chase the next shiny object, because that's also another thing that businesses just starting out do, because any way that can fog a mirror and cash a check is a good client. And we quickly find out that that's not the case. It's actually a bad thing to to be in a situation where you're taking jobs just for the paycheck more or less, and then all of a sudden you realize that you're not getting the business that you want out of it. The other side of that is there's so many different facets even in what you do that you can chase after that might sound good or might seem good, but you dilute yourself to the point where maybe none of it's making the money you need it to. So now it loops
Sure.
back to the finance side of things where where can you build the margins versus where are you going to be commoditized and put in a situation where you got to worry about every penny that comes in. So
Yeah.
yeah, those are just, I guess, a couple things to concern yourself with. How about from you? So you being the guy that's been in business for about 5 years total, 3 for the most part full time, what would you tell another entrepreneur?
Boy. Um, I would say, man, that's a good question because I've got so many things I tell myself all the time, like, and it goes back and forth. I would say, don't give up too soon. Don't
Hmm.
feel like just because you're not where you want to be in year 2 doesn't mean you're not going to be there in year 10. People that give up and have to start over, they end up starting back at the bottom. And once you start your foundation, build on the foundation. Um, just stay true to who you are. Keep pushing forward. It's I mean, it's gonna be tough. Just to keep pushing forward. If you believe in it, build it. If you truly believe in it and you believe in yourself, keep pushing forward and learn along the way because you don't have all the answers right away. I've learned so much, and I am such a controlled. I'm a person that I like to have a grip on everything, and you're just not going to have it. You've got to be able to let some things go and just believe in the process, learn as you go, and just keep pushing forward. Don't give up too soon. So that'd be what I'd say. You're gonna have a lot of sleepless nights, a lot of sleepless nights. So, but
That
just
you
believe it.
will. That you will.
So
But that is good advice because I think a lot of people try to control everything. In fact,
yeah,
I know many business owners that have been in business for a lot longer than you that still try to control everything, and that tends to be the problems they run into.
yeah, yeah. I know a few of them, and they struggle with it, and I just got to keep pushing forward. I mean, it having a support group that I have though has made it obtainable. Has made it obtainable. I've got people who are in my corner, people who have supported me, people who have given me breaks to get started. It's creating a cult, like I was saying before, create the culture that you want, and be the person that you would want to see on the other end of the transaction. You know what I mean? Just you as a person would want somebody coming in your house doing certain things a certain way. Well, be that person.
Hmm.
Be that person because nobody wants to deal with the other one. So it can make things a little hairy at times. So just keep pushing. Be true to yourself. Keep pushing. Don't give up. Expect some rough, sleepless evenings, but once you get to a side, the machine feeds itself a little bit. Things will start to take off. So just keep pushing forward. It's not easy, but it gets there. Not saying it's easy for me now, but it's not nearly as nerve wracking as it was when I first started. So
Yeah, those first steps are the scariest ones, but
yeah, like watching your kid walk through the house not knowing how to walk, and you're covering every table and corner. Yeah, like, stay away
yeah, it's
from
a
there.
lot like that. A lot
Yeah,
like
stay away from there. Don't go over there. Come back over here. Eat your food. So, but
Well,
yeah,
Steve, this has been great. Uh, Tell us a little bit more. How do people get a hold of you if they need your services? Obviously, you're not nationwide, so we'll say the southern Wisconsin area. If they need to get a hold of you, what's the best way to do it?
go to my webpage, accurateelectricalsolution.com. Not solutions. You'll get a company in Oregon.
So not plural, just
Not
singular.
plural. Yeah. Um, and through my webpage, you'll have my phone number and my email address. So the best way to get a hold of me would be with accurateelectricalsolution.com.
Excellent. Well, thank you for that, Rich. As always, pleasure to have you as part of the team here. And we will talk to you again next week. And Steve, we'll have to
Absolutely.
catch up maybe another year down the road, see what's going on in your world, see what's changed.
Yeah, sounds great, gentlemen. Thanks for your time.
All right.
All right.
Take care, everybody.
You too. Bye-bye.